Hey there, welcome to the Second Act Success Podcast. I am your host, Shannon Russell. Today we're talking about how to fuel your CEO brain. Joining me is registered dietitian Lindsay Martens. Lindsay is here to talk about how we can start a second act, scale our businesses, and do it while also thinking about how to make sure that we are healthy in the process. It's time to learn some health tips and take some new habits with us into 2026. Let's get to it. Lindsay Martens, welcome to Second Act Success.
Thanks so much for having me, Shannon. I'm excited to be here.
Me too. I'm really excited. You've got a great career story, an amazing business, and a lot of information for us because you, as a registered dietitian, can really talk to women who are thinking about a second act and who are trying to restart their lives and careers, especially in midlife. And so we're going to dive into all of that, but let's take it to the beginning. Where did your career begin?
Yeah, I love this question so much. So I actually have a biochem degree. So I went to school for that because I originally wanted to be a doctor. And then in one of my classes, somebody kind of came in who was a doctor and said, if you want to do this, that's pretty much all you're doing. And I was like, well, I think I want more in life and I want to be able to spend time with the clients and really get into like their whole life picture. So then I decided to become a dietitian. That's a really competitive field as well. And so got an internship, all that fun stuff. And then I was working in a lot of different spaces. So I feel like I have a really neat experience where I've worked with like dialysis patients, long-term care, outpatients, rural, city, all of it. So I've seen a lot of different things. And then I had twins. I was surprised twins.
What a
And
blessing.
decided, right, not to go back to work and kind of started my version of a second act there, where I became a private practice dietitian. And it's so funny, and we'll get into this, I think, a bit later, but I actually thought about waiting to start my second act because I thought I didn't look the part of a dietitian. And so I think this is something a lot of your listeners might also relate to, where they feel like they have to maybe change their body first to change their life.
Mm.
And so I think we can dive into that a bit later, but I just wanted to share that part because that is something that actually went through my brain as well before becoming a private practice dietitian. But so now, yeah, now I love what I do though. I help busy women quiet the food noise, that kind of mental chatter about what or how you should be eating that lives there constantly. And instead, we build sustainable habits rooted in self-trust, nourishment, and joy.
I love that. I love that you have the practical inpatient kind of working at different facilities, but now you're
Yeah.
taking everything that you learned and what you experience in your own life to help other women and going into this business to finally taking that leap, creating your own business. How did you know who you wanted to serve? Who you wanted
Ooh.
as your ideal clients?
That has actually evolved quite a bit, which I think is pretty normal. But first, I really wasn't 100% sure, honestly. I started as like, I'll just be a private practice dietitian and I'll throw it out there and people will come and it's going to be great. And they're going to tell me basically who I should be serving is kind of the way I viewed it. Originally, my business was actually called Proactive Health Nutrition, and I carry that with me now in different forms. But because a lot of healthcare that is offered is reactive. So I wanted to offer an alternative to people who were looking for something a little bit earlier before they were given a diagnosis or given some sort of news of some sort to kind of look at their health in a different way. So that's what it was originally called. Funnily enough, I thought that I had to do what kind of all the private practice dietitians kind of do at that time was like meal plans or tell you what you need to be eating and those kind of ideas. I already knew from being working with outpatients and that didn't super last really well and wasn't actually addressing real life situations and issues. So I did it for a while, but then I realized this isn't helping you and it's not helping me. So as I kind of unpacked more about who I really wanted to help, as I worked with more people and explored that more, that's how I unpacked all of that.
And now you focus mainly with Lindsay Martens Nutrition. That's the name of your business now.
Yes,
You work mostly with women, or is it exclusively with women?
it's mostly women. I would say I do have a bit of a one-on-one on the side that sometimes some men come through because men also struggle
Oh,
with
yeah.
this kind of stuff sometimes where they've been trying to build habits and they just can't seem to get that going or they don't know. And a lot of that can come from low self-esteem or low trying to do too much, raising the bar too high for that habit instead of actually starting with the foundations of that habit. So there's definitely men who would come to me as well for that kind of stuff, but mostly I would say like 99% women is who I focus on. Yeah.
Working with other women, do you feel like a lot of times they come and work with you because they can relate to you and they just feel like you get it and you're not going to be judgy? There's a lot of women in this
Yes.
space that are intimidating, especially when you see their TikToks and their reels, and I can instantly know I would not want to work with that person because I don't relate, or they just seem like they just have it all together and I don't. You just are very approachable, you're girl next door, and I can see a lot of women being attracted to that aspect of you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. So I work really hard at this.
Yeah.
So because as a dietitian, you're very much trained to be so professional and kind of clinical. And so I work really hard at being like, actually, let's make this an approachable space where we are a team. Because I very much believe that, in having done work in a lot of different places and I've been in private practice now since 2018. So that's what, like 7 years. It's evolved, like I said, and it's become more and more a part of my life. Blending that level of, hey, I do know what I'm talking about. And I get you. I see you. I am like, I lived this. We can all relate to that. And I want to be relatable as well, because there's a lot, there's a lot of shame and control in the health messaging and wellness messaging of this world. And I really, really want to offer something a little bit more integrative to your whole life. And that alternative, again, to feeling bad about yourself because you're not living up to the hype. We don't need to
Yeah.
do that.
No. And there's so much, like, we just have to talk about like the big elephant in the room of so many fads. I don't want to call them fads, but like, oh, take Optavia and lose the weight, or do this diet and
Hmm.
lose the weight, or GLP-1s. And there's just all these things that are like those quick fixes, where it sounds to me like what you offer is really this whole approach of how to really change and make different updates in your life that will last a little bit longer than this so-called fad.
Yeah, no, exactly. So again, like a lot of that comes from wanting to control or shame your body, right? A lot of that
Mm.
comes from that lens, which is part of the culture we live in, right? This is
Yeah.
not any one individual thing. This is part of the culture. And a lot of the way health has been shared with individuals is in a way to say, hey, you need to control this. We live in a very fat phobic culture as well. I'll throw that out there in addition. So
Yeah.
I saw something the other day that was so interesting from another dietitian, and she was sharing how, because there's this really big trend about microdosing GLP-1s right now. And so she was saying how that's kind of similar to taking diet pills in the 70s.
Uh,
And nowadays we would not take a diet pill from the 70s. So in like 30, 40 years, it'll be really interesting to see what happens and how we look back on this microdosing of GLP-1s trend that is occurring. But
mhm.
again, that comes from control. So what I do is I offer a way for you to look at it from a place of care.
Yeah.
And so that's really the big thing that I like to change the way we're viewing this. And so same with like when we were talking about earlier, there's this lens that we need to change our bodies before we jump into our second
Mm.
act or before we do these things. Actually, you don't need to change your body to change your life. That's made up. That's not true. But caring for your body for the life that you want, that is actually very powerful.
Mm.
And so that shift in how we look at it can make all the difference.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Okay, so let's dive into that then. How do you
Yeah.
care for your body? Like, you're sitting here, as many of my listeners are, okay, I want to change. 2026 is right here.
Yeah.
And what do I do to change my life when it's already crazy? I'm already juggling so much. I'm in a job that I don't like. I need to start this business. I want to go out on my own. How do I make sure that I can stay healthy and do it all when I know I'm about to embark on a different kind of stress?
I love that question. So, a lot of the times people forget that their brain is actually like their number one asset, and your brain needs a lot of energy. So, it needs a lot. It's about 20, I think, to 25% of your total energy intake is what your brain uses, like just your brain, and about 120 grams of carbohydrates. So, that's what it wants, that's what it prefers, and your brain is what drives all of that creativity, the steadiness, the energy, the focus, all of that is comes from feeding and fueling your brain, right? So there's that aspect. And then there's also, you mentioned the aspect of kind of almost capacity, right? And so
Mm.
capacity is something I talk about a lot because you know the message, we all have the same 24 hours in a day, and that is just frankly not true either. That's not
Yeah.
true. We don't. And so I like to explore that with people, and I think you can explore that for yourself as well. I use a framework called ease. So the first E is explore, and then we want to align what we want with what we're doing. So we're not doing something that Shannon down the block, let's say, I'm gonna use your name because it's easy, down the block, is doing. We want to do something that's actually aligned with what we want and what works with our lives. And then building that support in is for the S. And then E is how we feel empowered. So our brain loves a reward. It really enjoys that. And so we want to make sure we're giving it that. So it keeps wanting that feedback.
You're right. It's not what my best friend is doing or the person down the street. It's really, okay, what's going to fit into my life? And everyone's lives are so different. You and I are not at offices. We work from home and
Yeah.
we're working during these hours that our kids are in school. And then we're in mom mode. And then we're stressed about what we need to do in our businesses. And then it just happens the next day and the next day. And it's different
Yeah.
than going out to the office and socializing and talking with people and going to lunch. I have problems even getting lunch into my schedule because I'm so limited in the hours that I have before school pickup that I'm guilty of skipping lunch often, which I know is a no-no. But it's sometimes hard when we're just trying to do it all. And I love that you have this system where you can teach someone, okay, this is something that can really help you fuel your brain and be more productive in what you need to during the hours that you have available.
I'm a big proponent of like what we say and the way we say things
Yes.
matters. So we're gonna rewind a little bit on what you said, if that's
Okay,
okay. I'm gonna
please.
put you on the spot. I know, sorry.
Yeah,
So
please,
you
please.
said not eating lunch is a no-no. And so I think that's a really interesting perspective because you're immediately putting that shame on yourself
Yeah.
that why can't I do this thing? There must be something wrong with me. And so I think there's some power in changing that up a little bit and being like, you know what, lunch right now is not a priority for me. Sitting down or taking time away from my desk to eat is not a priority. But I
Mm.
know I need to fuel my brain. So, how do I do that in a way that meets my day, that I can still get some nutrition in and I can still power my brain, but it doesn't make me feel like I am taking away from my day or that kind of idea?
Ooh, that reshapes everything. Because you're
Right?
right.
That's
Like,
exactly that shift.
yeah.
Yes.
Right, because you're not like, why should you be proactive and really working hard in one area and then feeling bad about yourself in another? Because there should be that balance because we're balancing so much. We need to balance how we talk to ourselves.
Yes. And when you shift how you look at it, instead of being like, oh, I really should be eating lunch, or I know I need to, or I know I need to be doing this thing, instead of saying those things to ourselves, because those keep us stuck
Yeah.
more often than not. Same with when we're trying to rebuild our lives or trying to do something different. If we go into those shoulds and I really need to,
Yeah.
it shifts things. And so when we take that from that, I call it compassionate curiosity. I think that is the actual name for it, is compassionate curiosity. And so you take that lens to it and be like, actually, my life is very full during the day. I know I would like to eat. Even saying I would like to is so different.
Hmm.
How could I fit that into my already very busy life where I don't feel like, yeah, I have to step away or something like that.
It goes back to the woman mom guilt that we just carry about every aspect of our lives. And sometimes
Yeah.
we carry that into our business. And so we feel guilty that we're doing this or guilty that we're not. So reframing it to, I would like to, but I am not able to right now. So let me do this instead. And yeah, I can see
Yeah,
that that's just all exercises that you probably work on with your clients to really
exactly.
reframe that. What would you say is the biggest problem that maybe women who come to you have, especially if they are running businesses of their own or they know they need to be healthy? What is that correlation in them wanting to be healthy to be successful in their business?
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget. I'm
Mm.
gonna say like that's kind of a weird thing to say. A lot of people think about movement, and this is kind of comes from maybe the lens of the optimizing culture, right? And biohacking and all of that kind of fun stuff, right? There's a lot of like, oh, I will happily take an ice bath if that's going to help my brain function, right? But feeding it when it needs to be fed is really hard. It's really hard for women, and some of that does come from the you get to wear hunger as a badge of honor message that a lot of us have been raised with as well. So there is like this kind of weird intersection of hunger as a badge and productivity slash hustle culture slash whatever. There's this weird intersection of all these things. And that's what we do is we kind of work through why is hunger this block? Why are we blocked on feeding and nourishing our brain and our body so that it can do the things we need it to do? So we're not running on empty.
Mm-hmm.
And so the same thing, we wouldn't expect our vehicle to run on empty. We don't expect it to go very far if there's no gas in the tank, right?
Yeah,
or no charge for the EV people. So like,
Right.
We wouldn't expect it to go very far. Same with our body and our brain. It actually really needs that nutrition. And so yeah, we do talk a lot about that, and we talk a lot about understanding those hunger cues for a lot of women in business as well, because we're so distracted and busy in our heads. We live in our heads. This is something we do a lot of in, again, today's world, and women who are trying to build something or create something, we live there. And so bringing them back into their bodies, even for a second a day or a minute a day, whatever that looks like for you. I know breathing exercises are helpful, but even just a simple check-in. We do this check-in of, how am I feeling right now?
Mm.
And we do unpleasant, pleasant, or neutral. But some people really struggle with unpleasant. So if that's you, if you're like, I would never say unpleasant because I don't want to be unpleasant, you can use activated, comfortable, or neutral. Mm-hmm. And so what we're doing is we're bringing ourselves into our body and saying, hey, how am I feeling right now? Oh, I'm cramping. Maybe I'm a little bit activated or unpleasant right now. Oh, I have to go pee. I've had to go pee for the past 3 hours, but I've been sending emails. I'm a little bit activated right now.
Yeah.
I've been wiggling in my seat or something,
Yeah.
And so there's all those things. And then we can tune into thirst and hunger, because all of those things, our body's really smart and very adaptable. And so then when we have taught it that we are going to ignore those cues, it sometimes doesn't send them until it's at its limit. And so then we need to then we only get the cue when it's already so far.
My so far is at 3 o'clock when I'm driving to pick up the kids and I'm like ravenous and I feel low energy. And I'm like, oh, it's because I haven't fed myself in hours.
Yes.
And now that I'm thinking about it, I don't want to say that as a badge of honor. I don't mean to say that in like, oh, I was working so hard, but it's like, you just train yourself to be in that zone. I'm on the computer. I've got to get this done, but it's all in my head. As business owners, we're our own boss. So we can make our own schedule. I tell my clients, you can close that laptop, but for some reason it's hard for myself. And I think you're right. When you feel that low energy and you're not feeling well, it's going, oh, well, why is that? Oh, because I wasn't listening to Lindsay. And I was listening to my body.
To your body, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. No, and I am always happy to replace the voice in your head until the voice in your head gets strong enough too. So that's what I always tell my clients. I'm like, I am happy to be that voice for you if you need it, until the voice in your own voice gets strong enough to take over. So, but yes, exactly. I was going to ask you too, just on that note, because a lot of us want to be, let's say, I'm going to use this term and I hate this term, but a good mom. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that term, but I'm going to use that term.
Yeah.
And so I was going to ask you, when you go to pick them up at 3 o'clock then too, how is your emotional regulation? How are you at being present and in tune with what they need and being that mom that you want to be? And this is not, of course, to throw shame on you or anything, but it's to invite that compassion, curiosity, and say, is this helping you in all aspects of life that you value?
I think now that I'm thinking about it, I think I'm feeling low energy, but I'm excited to see them. But then sometimes the kids don't want to talk after school. And then that makes me feel bad. And it's probably just because I'm in that high-low kind of phase because I'm not regulated. And then I get sad because they don't want to talk to me. And then I'm like, what's all this for? And you go into your spiral and I go home and eat chips or something,
Yes, exactly.
I'm not setting myself up for success. And I have a feeling a lot of us do that every day. And then you hit that plateau and you're just like, oh, great. How am I going to get out of this?
Exactly. It's exactly it. And I have this fun little saying that, a lot of downward spirals are stopped by lunch.
Oh, yeah.
We just have lunch.
Oh, my gosh.
We can probably stop a lot of our downward spirals.
It's true.
Yeah.
And that's where meal prepping comes in, right? I'm always have the best intentions on Sundays to do that because then you don't have to worry.
Yes.
So many
So I'm
little
going to say
lessons.
mindful eating is the best. Like if you can eat mindfully, amazing. But that also is not for everybody for every meal. And we don't have to do every meal that way. So maybe
True.
that's not lunch for you. Maybe lunch
Yeah.
is an eating at your desk while you're answering emails or something like that. Like that's
Yeah.
perfectly fine if that's what we need to do to get that energy into your body so your brain can properly function and help you have that focus and creativity that you so want for the afternoon and that attention and emotional regulation for the evening and all the other jobs you have to do in your life. So
Smart.
yeah, we set that bar so high. We go like, only if I can do the gold standard. That's the only reason I can do this, or only way I can do this. And that's actually not true. There's a bajillion other ways you can do it. They're all gold stars. They
Mhm.
all count. They're all valuable. And so just kind of distilling that down again to exploring what do I have capacity for in my day? Do I have capacity to sit and enjoy my lunch while I'm watching a show or reading a book or doing something not work related?
Yeah.
Or am I actually just trying to cram so much into my day because my evenings and my are so important to me to be a present mom that maybe my lunchtime is not a super mindful moment, but my supper is while I'm engaging with my family. So
Hmm.
there's like that kind of exploration that happens and that alignment that comes into play with that too. So there's also meal prep, but there's also like there's I mean, we have something called Inspired Go salads here, and there's like a bunch of different meal like things you can get delivered. So if that's
Yeah.
something else that you're like, I don't have time to meal prep, then maybe we lean on something different. And so sandwiches do not take very long to make. If it's even just like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, cool. Like I'm so happy for you and have an apple on the side or some vegetables, like great. So
Right.
like little things like that, cheese and crackers and veggies, also like things that don't have to be super intensive labor wise,
Yep.
but just
Can
give you that nice rounded lunch of those like fiber, protein, fats for your brains. Like that's what we want to go in. Yeah.
And so if somebody is feeling like me and they're thinking
Mhm.
about, okay, 2026, I'm going to get on the right path and I'm going to start my business finally and I'm going to start the second act, what would you suggest they start when it comes to making sure they're also thinking about their health while they embark on this next act?
Yeah, so I would really encourage you to, I'm going to say it again because it's super important, but to think about how you're going to fuel your brain. How you're going to fuel that CEO brain because it's doing all of the heavy lifting when you're starting a new business or even when you're just trying to run one. It does
Mhm.
everything for you. A lot of it you're sitting. It's not really your physical your physical body that's doing a lot of that heavy lifting for you. It's your brain. And so thinking about how you're going to fuel it in a way where it's not asking for energy all the time and you're kind of meeting its needs, that would be my biggest takeaway for you to have the best success and really help you feel really empowered and being able to make decisions and take action and having that energy and clarity.
As you're building your business or trying to scale your business, keep yourself and your own health into consideration. Take yourself along there. Don't drag yourself behind what you're building because your business is only going to be as successful as you are if you're taking care of yourself. But yeah, I think that's an important step that oftentimes we forget. We put ourselves last behind everyone else. And you're here to tell us, no, we need to put ourselves first, make sure we're healthy enough to make this business succeed and make it last because we want to be there for the long run.
We have that martyr thing going on too, where a lot of people feel like we just, all the sayings about, you can't pour from an empty cup and put your own oxygen mask on first, and all of those fun sayings that exist. But really, it comes down to basic needs. Food is a basic need, sleep is a basic need.
Yeah.
These things are all basic needs. And at the top of like any sort of like need hierarchy chart, you need to have that base first. And so self actualization, I think, is at the top. And so that's kind of what we're going for with a business. We're kind of going for that. But if we don't have that base foundation, it's really just set on like sand, right? Like it's on wet sand and we're going to like hope for the best. And so we just want to really make sure that base is really strong.
What do you do as a business owner? You're dealing with your clients, you're running your business. I know you're starting a podcast. You've got
Yeah.
lots of things going on. So, how do you take care of yourself and fuel your CEO brain?
We eat breakfast with our kids every morning, kind of thing. And then at lunch, I eat at my desk. That's what I do. I eat at my desk. I have an assortment. I have like three or four things that I rotate through because, again, we do not need to be fancy. It doesn't need to be anything wild and out there. If we think about it's funny, I'm going to just say this because this is kind of funny, but we have this weird thing where like breakfast, we're okay with having like one or two rotations. And then lunch, we feel like there needs to be like four or five. And then supper, it needs to be like 17. And we're like,
Yeah.
why did this like, what
I
happened?
know. That's so
So
true though.
it's really funny and weird. And then also suppers we typically have as a family, but I have scheduled days that we do order out because we have activities and it's wild. And I don't want to be spending that precious hour or two after school before we have to run off making dinner. So that to me is like how I've done my alignment with who I want to be as a mom and where that all lines up. But I often eat lunch at my desk because I do have limited hours as well. And so, yeah, that's what I do.
But you make sure to do it. You fit it into your schedule. And I think that's important. I often will block off that time, but then you just get caught up in something. But I think starting the new year and just wanting to start those habits early is important. And I think for anyone listening who is embarking on this huge change in the new year of whatever that might be, to think about yourself first and build yourself into the equation, to start off again on the right foot so that you can build those habits as you're building your business or writing that book or starting that podcast, whatever it might be. And like you said, it can be just a couple of staples. What suggestions would you have? For me, I always have hummus and I slice up peppers because I really enjoy that. Or,
Yeah.
like
But then
what?
where's your carbs? Where's your carbs? Like
Yes.
I'm like, then, so again, making sure you kind of have something from all the macronutrient groups in there
Okay.
because your brain does want a little bit of all of it. But really, like I said, it takes a lot of carbohydrates to run your brain, and that is its preferred energy source. I know we have like keto, it can do it on that as well, but its preferred energy source is glucose and from carbohydrates. So getting that in is really helpful. I also wanted to say that lunchtime, I hear a lot of times people are like, I block it off, but then I work through it.
Mhm.
So part of why I actually don't block off lunch, I have spent so much of my adult life and mom life, let's say, understanding my body because I felt so disconnected to it after I had my twins. I actually have three kids, but after my twins, I felt so disconnected from it. And so I've spent a lot of time reconnecting with it. So my body actually will not, it like is yelling at me really early on the hunger sign. So that's also part of what I was going to just share is that, spending that time understanding what your signals and reminding it that, hey, I'm here to listen
Mm.
can be really helpful for you if you're somebody who does block off the time but is a hard time actually going to get food
Yeah.
because then your body is like you can't ignore it at that point. Like I can't ignore it. Or I notice and like again having that curiosity you're probably like this email's taken me a real long time to write, why is that happening? And instead of being like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you do this? And you should be smarter, blah, blah, blah. All that negative self-talk that can happen.
Yes.
I'll be like, oh, right. It's 12:30 or 1 o'clock or 2, whatever. I'm like, I should go eat something. And so then
Yes.
it's like, yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe I wasn't listening super great. So just being that really curious about what's going on. And when you notice those dips and those changes, instead of thinking that something's wrong with you or thinking that you need to push through, asking and
Yeah.
listen. Yes, yes.
It's so easy to do. It's just like write that post-it because it's easy to just push it down. Again, push ourselves and our needs off to the side. Oh,
Yes.
this is such good stuff and I love it. Earlier, you talked about when you set out to start your private practice, you didn't feel like you quote unquote looked the part. And there are
Mm-hmm.
so many of my clients that feel the same way on whatever they're embarking on. I'm going to open a hair salon or I'm going to start this Etsy shop, whatever it is. Who am I to do that? Those questions we ask ourselves. And who am I to show up and be this person that I want to be? And it's so easy to just say, okay, I don't like that feeling. It's uncomfortable. I'm just going to stay where I am. What
Yes.
helped push you through and how did you work through that?
It is an ongoing process is what I'm going to share as well.
Mhm.
So it's never ever a one and done situation for people. So I need to share that right out the gate because I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I just need to fix this. And then it's like done. And I know, because again, we live in a culture that's going to tell you you are not enough for forever and always. Like that is
Mhm.
just unfortunately where we are.
True.
So it's a forever act. So I did a lot of things beforehand where I was like, okay, I reminded myself that how I looked had very little or nothing to do with the knowledge and the information I had to share. And so that was something that I held really close as I was building the business. And then as I continued on and really dove into the work that I do now, I understood more and more that people actually need people in a variety of body sizes and shapes to be in different businesses. That's actually something people need to see.
Yes.
And very, very much so. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I might need to change my body first, you don't. Please just go. Just go, because we need you so much. Everybody needs to see that in every aspect of business and work and all those things. It's really helpful for people. This is something that I keep, and maybe this will help somebody too, but I keep this whenever I'm like, oh, who am I? Because you said that. Who am I to do this?
Yeah.
So Ryan Gosling was famous as like a kid, right? He was famous as a kid. He's a Ryan from Canada. Well, Ryan Reynolds is also a Ryan from Canada. And so can you imagine if he was like, there's already a Ryan from Canada, I can't do this. I carry that with me a lot because I'm like, then we wouldn't have them. And they're so different. They're so different and so unique in
Yeah.
their own way. Yes, they're both actors. Yes, they're both Ryan from Canada, but they are different. And
Yeah.
so I think that that is something I hold with me, and hopefully that helps your people too when they're thinking about why me.
Yes, and they're also my two favorite Ryans, like ever.
Right? I know,
Yeah.
like we're great. Like,
Yeah.
can you imagine if one of them didn't do it?
Oh my
Like,
gosh, I'm
no.
gonna, and this is a great for anyone listening. Print out their pictures, put it on your wall because it's just nice to look at and a great reminder.
Very true. Yes.
Well, you're so, so right. And so you thought about that and you're like, there might be another Lindsay doing this work, but I'm the only Lindsay who is going to show up and create this business the way I want to. And
Exactly.
and that moved you forward. And gosh, I'm so glad that you did that. Look at where you are now and how many people you've helped through your
Yes.
work.
Yeah. No, I'm so glad I took the leap too. Like, that's the thing that I think. I mean, yes, okay. Like, yes, there's fear. Yes, there's fear. Yes, there's nerves. Yes, you're excited. There's all those feelings that you have to kind of work through and figure out how to plow through and be like, get out of the way so I can do this thing. But there's so much joy. And I am so, so grateful that I did take the leap and that I did decide to do this. I can't imagine doing anything else. That's kind of where I'm at now, is I'm like, I can't imagine doing anything else. I love this so much. Like, I love doing what I do. I love being able to create something from nothing, which is also
Yeah.
very cool. Like, it's a very cool use of your brain, and you get to feel really empowered, really, is how it feels. You feel very
Mhm.
empowered doing this kind of stuff.
And you're able to do it on your own schedule with your three kids. And then to empower other women and see the transformations that you're giving to them is just it's got to fill you up in a way that maybe it didn't with your clients in the past when you worked in outpatient and everywhere else.
Yes, 100%. You get to kind of do it your way. You get to do and build in a way that makes sense instead of always being focused on the results that people above you want, maybe
Mhm.
is maybe the way to say that, for that's kind of
Yes.
universal for everybody. And so you get to be like, actually, I can see that that maybe isn't the right way to approach that. And so I'm going to do it this way because I know this, because I've done this for a while. And a lot of people, I think, who are starting their second act probably have done something for a while, probably feel pretty strong in a situation or like in
Yes.
something that they're thinking about doing. And so there's that knowledge where you're like, I know I could do this better. I know I could do this differently. And maybe it's not better for everybody. That's also the part that I think is really important. It might not be better for everybody, but it's going to
Mhm.
be better for somebody, and somebody is
Yeah.
going to want that. So,
Yep.
yeah.
And to get yourself in a place where you're happy and you have this business and to know that someone's going to be attracted to working with you and not the other Lindsay. There's enough work for everyone. Someone's going to meet you, hear you on this show and say, I can relate to her. And that's why I want to work with her over someone else. So it's that fit and that relationship that you can form. And if you didn't start this business, you wouldn't be able to help those people. And so I think it's
100%.
amazing that you did that for yourself and for them.
Yes, thank you. No, I agree. I think it's such a powerful thing to do, right? Like, you too. Your second act also is so
Mhm.
powerful and such a great story. And so the leap is not for everybody, but I think there's a lot of women who listen to the I really shouldn't, or I can't, or I'm not enough
Mhm.
voice, is really what I want to say. The I'm not enough voice. And a lot of women listen to that instead of taking the leap. But if it's for different reasons, then yeah, like maybe you shouldn't take the leap. But a lot of people listen to that not enough voice instead. And I think there's a really valuable part in society where women do take that leap and
Mm.
women do lean into their own knowledge and power and creativity.
And as they should, I feel like you and I are, know each other well. We're in the same mastermind together, so we know each other's businesses and support each other. And you want to support other women who want to make the leap. And that leads me to your programs because you have some really incredible ways that people can work with you. Fed Mamas, that's an incredible program that you created. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, Fed Mamas is for anybody who wants to heal their relationship with food and their bodies. There's a really big generational impact. I think we can all know that and all relate to that, where a lot of the times where the way some women in your lives talked about their bodies or talked about the way they fed their bodies or fueled their bodies can really stick with you. And so Fed Mamas is created to help kind of break that generational chain and also to help you really understand how to again care for your body and understand what it's trying to tell you and understand that you don't need to change your body, but these are the ways you can care for it instead, and changing that lens from control to curiosity. So that's really what Fed Mamas is. It's a lovely group program. It has like the best results. I love it so much. And then I also do a program called Proactive Action. And so that's what I was saying before, that proactive health kind of stayed with me.
Yeah.
And so Proactive Action is a longer program. It's currently just for Manitoba residents, but it is something that I love doing as well. It's 6 months and we are relaunching in January and it's getting a little bit of a glow up. So I'm really excited about that too.
Ooh.
We are really focused on building the sustainable habits for proactive health. So in that 6 months, you get a nutrigenomics test. So that's a DNA swab to help you understand what your genes are telling you you're at risk for. And we are also adding this time a full blood panel workup. So all the biomarkers, I'm working with a company called Nia Health, and they give you a dashboard and kind of give you a grade for each of your organs so that when we're working together, we can really focus in on what matters to you and maybe where there's family history and where we can kind of help you have that really, really proactive health. Yeah, it's exciting. I know. Right now it's just Manitoba, but if there's anybody else who's interested, please just send me an email because then I just need to look at getting licensing wherever you are. So
Okay.
yeah, so just let me know.
Amazing.
Yes, but then for everybody in early 2026, I am launching a membership. So that's going to be for everybody who wants to come and learn more about this kind of stuff. And so it's called the Good Enough Health Club.
Ooh.
And we're doing that early 2026. So that's going to be really fun as well. So
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, I didn't know about that. I'm very excited.
Oh, I'm very excited too. I'm really pumped about it because I wanted to serve more people.
True.
So this is a way I can do that in a way where I can still pass on a lot of the stuff I know and a lot of the stuff I work with clients, but in a broader scope. So yeah, I'm excited about
I
it.
love that. And your podcast, can we talk about that?
Yeah, that's launching in January. So that's called Good Enough Health. So it's the Good Enough Health podcast where we're going to be talking about how to feel good enough about your health, how to prioritize health in a way that feels good enough instead of always trying to work for optimizing or biohacking, because that's what's the message is right now. And that's fine for some people, but that's not what a lot of the women I talk to are looking for. A lot of them just want to feel good in their bodies. A lot of them want to feel good about what they're doing for their bodies, for their long-term health.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're going to be talking about on the Good Enough Health podcast.
So many good things. I'm so excited for you. What
Thank
a
you.
year. I'm going to link to everything that you've talked
Yeah.
about in the show notes, in the description. But how can people get in touch with you and follow and just stay in touch with you?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram at Lindsay Martens Nutrition. I'm pretty much everywhere at Lindsay Martens Nutrition. And then my website is also lindsaymartensnutrition.com. So I'm really easy, tried to keep it simple for everybody. It is Lindsay with an A, just for clarification, and Martens with an E.
Okay.
Because I know there's lots of different things out there.
Yes. But just go to the show notes. I'll have it all for you. And Lindsay, this is such a great conversation. Honestly, we could keep talking because there's so much good stuff. So I'll have to have you back in the new year. If you're listening and you have questions for Lindsay and you want to hear more about how you can really dive in and create a better health and lifestyle for yourself in your second act and when you're creating your business, please let me know, let Lindsay know, and we will continue this conversation. I think more women have to think about their health and fuel their bodies so that they can be successful. That's the missing piece that a lot of us really need. So thank you for opening our eyes to that today.
Yes, I am happy to help. Send in the questions if you have anything. Shannon and I are happy to talk more.
Thanks so much, Linz.
Yeah, thank you.